The war had not been kind to Captain Jack Hawkins. He had seen too many ships torn apart, too many pilots screaming in his ear before the comms went silent forever. The Zverik's Dominion, with their sleek, insectal warships and impossible weapons, had been pushing humanity back for years. The United States Space Navy was outgunned, outnumbered, and running out of time. And now, here he was, sitting in a half-lit briefing room on a dying space station, staring at a classified file that shouldn't exist. "You're telling me this ship is real?" Hawkins asked, voice low, measured. Commander Eric Dawson, known as Fixer for his ability to jury-rig broken things, machines or battle plans, nodded grimly. He tapped the screen, bringing up grainy schematics. Not just real. It was built, and it's out there waiting for us. Hawkins exhaled through his nose, his jaw tightening. The USS Valkyrie, the ship whispered about in dark corners of the fleet, the mythical warship that could turn the tide. Some said it was a failed prototype, others that it had never been finished, buried under red tape and bureaucratic cowardice. But if what Dawson was saying was true, then it was neither lost nor broken. It was hidden. Lieutenant Mark Whitaker, whiz to his squad mates, leaned in, his youthful face skeptical but hungry. "Okay, but why mothball something like this? If it's as advanced as the rumors say, we should have deployed it years ago." "Because it was too damn good," Dawson said. "Weapon systems classified beyond top secret. Unconventional tech that scared the hell out of the brass. They shelved it, probably thought it was too risky to put in the field." Hawkins didn't like the sound of that. The fleet was getting obliterated, and some desk jockey had decided to bury their best weapon? He clenched his fist, pressing against the table to keep his anger controlled. Chief Engineer Thomas Reynolds, Tank, spoke up for the first time, his deep voice even. "You're saying we steal a warship from our own government." "Not steal," Dawson corrected. "Take what should have been ours in the first place." A long silence settled over the room. Outside the station's viewport, the distant glow of a burning planet flickered. Another human colony lost to the Dominion's relentless advance. Hawkins leaned back, rubbing his temple. His crew was tired. They had been fighting for so long with so little, and now they were expected to throw themselves into an even bigger risk. But was it really a choice? "If we do this," he said finally, "we do it clean. No loose ends, no half measures. We go in, we find Valkyrie, and we make damn sure she flies." Dawson smirked. "Wouldn't have it any other way, sir." 2 days later, they were deep in the black, flying an old recon vessel barely held together by hope and desperation. The classified coordinates led them to a dead system, the kind that didn't appear on official charts. No planets, no asteroids, just the skeletal remains of an abandoned station drifting in the void. "This is where they left it?" Whitaker asked, adjusting his flight controls. "Doesn't look like much." Hawkins stared at the station through the viewport. It was old, battered, long since abandoned. But as they got closer, he saw the faintest flicker of power in its core. "She's here," Hawkins said, buried inside. They docked manually, the automated systems long dead. The station smelled of rust and ozone, the artificial gravity fluctuating just enough to make their stomachs turn. Tank led the way, his engineering scanner flickering as he searched for any sign of their prize. After a few minutes, he stopped, exhaling a slow breath. "We got a bay. Sealed, but it's got power." They forced the doors open. The USS Valkyrie was a beast, longer than any standard cruiser, but built lean, predatory, matte black plating with no insignia, a hull designed not just to endure battle, but to disappear from enemy scans entirely. Even at rest, she looked fast, deadly. "Mother of God," Whitaker breathed. Dawson ran a hand along the hull. "She's real." Hawkins felt something stir in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Then the alarms blared. Unidentified vessel inbound. Tank snapped. Multiple signatures. Zaveric scouts. How the hell did they find us? Whitaker cursed. Hawkins didn't waste time wondering. Does Valkyrie have power? Tank checked the console. She's dormant, but she's got a pulse. Give me an hour and I can wake her up. We don't have an hour. Hawkins turned to Dawson. Get those weapon systems online. Whitaker, prep for emergency launch. They moved fast. The Zaveric scouts were close now, their spindly ships cutting to the dark, searching. If they found Valkyrie before she was ready, this mission would be over before it began. Hawkins climbed the command ramp, stepping onto the bridge. It was unlike any warship he'd ever seen. Sleek interfaces, no wasted space. As he took the captain's chair, the console flared to life. A voice, smooth but edged with something synthetic, echoed through the chamber. Designation, Ares. Artificial combat intelligence. Awaiting command. Hawkins didn't hesitate. Wake up, Ares. We have work to do. The USS Valkyrie came alive with a pulse that sent vibrations through the deck. A beast stirring from slumber. Screens flickered. Systems rebooted, and the low hum of power filled the bridge. Captain Hawkins gripped the armrest of his chair as the AI's voice resonated through the ship. Primary systems initializing. Fusion core at 40%. Weapons offline. Propulsion offline. Assessing operational capacity. Tank. Hawkins barked. She's waking up, but she's been asleep a long time. The engineer called over comm. I'm pushing power to the engines, but this thing runs on tech I don't even recognize. I need time. We don't have time. Hawkins turned to the viewport. The Zaveric ships had found the station. 3 scout vessels, sleek and angular, drifted like sharks scenting blood. If they sent a signal, the Dominion's fleet wouldn't be far behind. Ares, Hawkins said, hoping the AI was more than just a cold algorithm. Can you disable their comms? A pause. Then, jamming sequence initiated. Estimated effectiveness, 79%. Not good enough. Dawson's voice crackled through. I'm in the weapons bay. We got coil guns, missile pods, but the targeting systems are dead. This ship wasn't meant to fire without AI control. Hawkins exhaled sharply. Ares, can you fight? Defensive protocols are active. However, current power levels restrict full combat engagement. Tactical recommendation. Avoidance. Not an option, Hawkins muttered. On the bridge's tactical display, the Zaveric scouts began their approach. They had spotted the station's activity. Soon, they would scan the bay, see Valkyrie, and realize what they had found. Humanity's last, best chance at survival would die before it ever truly lived. Tank, I need engines. Now! I can give you sublight, but if you want to jump, we're going to need to reroute power from non-essentials. Do it. The ship groaned as fuel lines cleared, thrusters igniting in a sputter before stabilizing. Valkyrie moved, slow, sluggish, but moving. The Zaveric ships reacted instantly, breaking formation and arcing toward the bay doors. They weren't attacking yet, just observing, cautious. They had never seen this warship before. Whitaker, how fast can you get us clear? Fast as we don't die. The pilot shot back. Engines aren't at full, and this thing isn't exactly a fighter. Then we make them hesitate. Hawkins opened a channel. Ares, give me external audio. Channel open. This is Captain Jack Hawkins of the USS Valkyrie. He said, voice sharp as steel. You have 30 seconds to turn back. Engage, and you will not survive. The Zaverics didn't respond. They wouldn't. The Dominion never negotiated. They only calculated risks. And right now, they were trying to decide if Valkyrie was worth the fight. They're scanning us, Dawson reported. Hawkins clenched his jaw. They'd find the ship was crippled, vulnerable. The bluff wouldn't hold. Tank, I need a weapon. Anything. Ares, Tank grunted. Tell me we got something. Primary weapons remain offline. However, an auxiliary rail launcher is available. Tank's voice had a grin in it. That'll do. Target their lead ship, Hawkins ordered. Fire when ready. Ares didn't hesitate. The ship rumbled as an unseen system activated. A split second later, a projectile streaked through the black, slamming into Zavaric's scout's forward section. The ship lurched, shields flaring, and then silence. No explosion. No debris. Hawkins frowned. Ares, what the hell was that? Experimental inertial disruptor. Non-lethal impact. Designed for suppression. Dawson cursed. They loaded this thing with non-lethals? Not our biggest problem. Whitaker cut in. They're pissed. The remaining 2 scouts flared to life, energy signatures spiking. They weren't hesitating anymore. Tank, I need those damn engines. Just about. The ship roared. Not a sound, not an explosion. Something deeper. The Valkyrie surged forward, inertial dampeners struggling to keep up. The station vanished behind them. Jump drive still cold, Tank warned. We can run, but we can't hide. They're in pursuit, Dawson called. And gaining. On the display, the 2 scouts burned after them, their sleeker designs built for speed. Valkyrie had power, but not enough. They would be caught. We have aft launchers, Dawson said. We could. No, Hawkins cut in. We can't just survive. We have to disappear. Ares responded immediately, activating experimental stealth matrix. A shimmer passed over the ship, a distortion that made the stars blur. The Zavaric scouts faltered, their trajectory shifting as they scanned wildly. We're cloaked, Whitaker asked, awed. Partially, Ares clarified. Stealth capabilities are untested. Prolonged exposure may be detected. Hawkins watched as the Zavaric ship slowed, circling unsure. Then, after an agonizing minute, they turned back, retreating toward the station. They think we're gone, Dawson murmured. Hawkins exhaled. Then let's keep it that way. They had stolen the Valkyrie. Now, they had to make it a weapon. The Valkyrie drifted in the cold abyss, silent as a shadow. Hours had passed since their escape, but no one relaxed. They had won a single hand in a game where the stakes were survival itself. Now came the hard part, turning a half-functioning legend into a weapon that could change the war. Hawkins sat in the command chair, eyes scanning the dimly lit bridge. Every console, every flickering display told the same story. They were alive, but not for long. Power reserves were low, primary systems incomplete, and weapons barely operational. If the Dominion found them now, there would be no escape. Dawson broke the silence. I've been through every system. We've got cutting-edge tech here, but half of it's locked behind classified protocols. He ran a hand through his short-cropped hair. If we can't break through those, we're flying a ghost. Hawkins turned to Tank. Tell me we have options. The engineer exhaled through his nose, arms crossed over his broad chest. We do, but none of them are easy. He gestured toward a readout. Ares is running in a limited capacity. Right now, we've only got access to about 30% of its processing power. We unlock the rest. Maybe we can bring the ship up to full combat readiness. Hawkins narrowed his eyes. And the problem is? Problem is, Tank said, it's locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Military encryption, multi-layered fail-safes. If we mess it up, we could fry the core. Best case scenario, we lose Ares. Worst case, we turn the ship into a floating coffin. Dawson let out a slow breath. So no pressure. Whitaker leaned against the railing, watching the holographic display flicker. Even if we get Ares fully online, that still leaves the weapons issue. We saw what happened with that inertial disruptor. This thing was built with unconventional tech. If all we've got are stun rounds and fancy suppression tools, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight. We can't afford a stand-up fight anyway, Hawkins said. Not yet. He leaned forward, studying the tactical readout. Ares, you still with us? The AI's response was immediate. Affirmative, Captain. You were designed for combat, but your systems are restricted. Why? A pause. Then, security directives established by the United States Department of Defense. Primary combat subroutines classified under Omega-level authorization. Without proper clearance, full functionality remains unavailable. Hawkins exhaled sharply. And if we override that, Ares's voice remained calm, detached. Manual override is possible. However, success probability is 32%. Failure could result in catastrophic systems collapse. Tank shook his head. That's a hell of a roll of the dice. Hawkins turned the problem over in his mind. He had commanded ships on the front lines for years, fought against impossible odds, but nothing had ever felt quite like this. They had stolen a warship too dangerous to use, built with technology their own government had feared. Now, they were locked in a race against time to bring it fully online before the Dominion found them again. Risk was part of war, but this wasn't just risk. This was everything. He made his decision. Tank, Dawson, start the override process. Carefully. I don't care if it takes hours. We don't move forward until we know it won't burn us alive. Tank gave a slow nod. I'll work the hardware. Dawson handles the software. If this thing has a backdoor, we'll find it. Good, Hawkins said. Whitaker, while they work, you and I are going to figure out what the hell we have in the weapons bay. If we can't shoot to kill, we need a way to cripple anything that comes at us. They got to work. The ship's internal systems were a labyrinth of classified tech and half-forgotten innovations. As Tank and Dawson worked through Ares's encrypted layers, Hawkins and Whitaker searched the weapons hold, cataloging what they had. The deeper they went, the more the truth became clear. The Valkyrie had never been built for conventional warfare. Its weapons were experimental, built around disruption, interference, and precision incapacitation. Instead of brute force, it relied on outmaneuvering and outthinking its enemies. Whoever designed this thing, Whitaker muttered, holding up a sleek, rifle-like device, they weren't looking to just win fights. They wanted to control them. Hawkins stared at the ship's schematics, a theory forming in his mind. Control, not overwhelming firepower, but absolute battlefield control. The Dominion's war doctrine was built on overwhelming force, pushing the enemy into submission through sheer brutality. But what if they weren't allowed to fight on their own terms? A thought struck him. Ares! Could this ship disable an enemy fleet without firing a shot? The AI responded instantly. Theoretical simulations suggest that through synchronized electronic warfare, stealth infiltration, and directed energy disruption, the Valkyrie could neutralize hostiles with minimal physical engagement. Hawkins felt the shift, the spark of understanding. The Valkyrie wasn't a brawler. It was a ghost, a knife in the dark, a warship that didn't win by overpowering its enemies, but by making them helpless. Just then, Tank's voice came through the comm. Captain, he said, tone edge of excitement. We're in. Hawkins and Whitaker hurried back to bridge. Dawson was grinning as he stepped back from the console. It wasn't easy, but we bypassed the security layers. Ares is at full capacity. The ship shuddered. Screens flared to life. Systems that had been dormant surged with new energy. Full combat subroutines restored. Ares confirmed. Weapons reinitialized. Stealth capabilities optimized. USS Valkyrie is now fully operational. For the first time since they had stolen the ship, Hawkins allowed himself to breathe. "Good," he said, "because we're done running." The Valkyrie cut to the void like a phantom, silent and unseen. Every system thrummed with renewed purpose, its once dormant potential now fully realized. Hawkins stood at the center of the bridge, eyes locked on the tactical display. The Dominion fleet loomed ahead, a vanguard force of 7 warships, each one capable of wiping out entire colonies. And they had no idea what was coming for them. "Ares," Hawkins said, voice calm. "Confirm fleet composition. 2 Zveris battlecruisers for escort frigates and 1 command dreadnought." The AI responded. "Fleet communications are encrypted but vulnerable to override." Hawkins glanced at Dawson. "How vulnerable?" Dawson's fingers danced across his console. "If we can get close enough, I can flood their channels with false telemetry, make them think they're under attack from a second fleet, maybe even turn their targeting systems against them." Whitaker let out a low whistle. "That's one hell of a trick." "It won't hold forever," Dawson warned. "Sooner or later, they'll realize it's a ghost signal. Then we make sure they don't have time to figure it out." Hawkins said. He turned to Tank. "How's our power distribution?" "Balance, but we're pushing limits. If we run the stealth matrix at full while engaging electronic warfare, we'll drain reserves fast. Then we'll have to be surgical." Hawkins faced a crew. "We don't have the firepower for a direct fight, but we don't need it. We're going to carve them apart from the inside." He tapped the display. "We slip past their defenses, shut down their comms, and disable propulsion on the lead ships. Once they're blind and adrift, we pick them off one by one." A slow grin spread across Dawson's face. "A fleet battle where the enemy doesn't even know who they're fighting." Hawkins nodded. "Let's show them why this warship was a myth." The Valkyrie moved in silence, its stealth matrix bending light, distorting sensors, making it a ghost in the darkness. As they closed in, the Dominion ships continued their patrol, unaware that death had already slipped between them. "Dropping jamming field now," Dawson announced. "They'll start seeing phantom ships on their scopes any second." The enemy fleet shifted, confused, uncertain. Hawkins watched as their formation wavered, battle cruisers drifting apart, frigates repositioning. "Ares, isolate propulsion systems on the nearest frigates. Disable them." A pulse of energy lanced out, invisible, targeted. On the screen, 2 enemy ships flared with emergency lights as their drives flickered and failed. The formation splintered further. "Enemy fleet is attempting to reestablish comms," Ares reported. "Not today," Dawson muttered. He sent another wave of interference, feeding them conflicting orders, making their own ships appear hostile on scanners. Chaos erupted. One of the battlecruisers opened fire on a frigate. The Dominion command dreadnought began issuing frantic commands, unaware that no one could hear them. "Now," Hawkins said, "Dawson, drop a single hole in the jamming field. Let them see us." Dawson tapped a key. For the first time, the Valkyrie stepped out of shadows. She emerged in the center of the fractured formation, sleek, predatory, impossible. For years, the Dominion had dismissed the rumors of an unstoppable human warship, a legend whispered by desperate soldiers. But now here it was, real, and hunting them. Ares, fire primary disruptor at the Dreadnought's bridge. A single shot, silent, no explosion, no fire. But on the screen, the Dominion flagship went dark, its command system severed. Panic spread. The Dominion fought by doctrine, by calculated, overwhelming force. But there was no doctrine for this. No calculations for fighting a ghost. One by one, the Valkyrie dismantled them. Frigates left adrift. Battle cruisers torn apart by their own confused allies. The dreadnought, leaderless, drifting powerless in the void. Minutes passed. Then silence. Hawkins exhaled, the weight of it settling over him. "Ares," he said, voice quiet. "Status report. All enemy vessels neutralized. No casualties on our side. Mission success." No cheers erupted. No celebrations. Just the quiet understanding that something had changed. The Valkyrie was no longer a myth. She was war.